So the result of such a combination was the creation of, and we're all heard of it in the last couple of years, the GPAN, the PHI, and the new electric motor controller, all patented by the staff of the department because they had the skill and the expertise. Such an endeavour, in our view, can be enhanced by a centre of excellence, a support group in software engineering as part of the National Innovation System, which has been interjected into this economy. So best practices of other successful countries are there for all to see, but blindly following these will not necessarily produce similar results in Trinidad and Tobago. We have seen that foreign investment may have worked in Ireland, though Professor Porter now says they had too much foreign investment in Ireland. That is part of their problem today, because they are footloose and fancy-free. But it damaged the indigenous industry in Costa Rica, and therefore they have to be considered very seriously. Models from abroad may not have taken into consideration the history of our formal and informal institutions, and this could affect negatively the development of the ICT sector. So we in this government are attempting to address these constraints by the establishment within our National Innovation System an interministerial council to coordinate government's efforts, and an economic development board with an innovation competitive council. The last two will be made up of the private sector. We are now in the process of our legitimation exercise, and the continuing foresighting exercise will manage the bottom-up aspirations and conflicts and drive the allocation of support for the fledgling companies that will be produced. No one expects that the road ahead of us is going to be easy, but it has to be done in a region that is threatened by depleting energy resources, tourism that is floundering, and climate change that appears to simply devastate our traditional agricultural industry and limited infrastructure year after year after year. But we think it is not all doom and gloom. We can acquire, we can use and create the knowledge required to protect our societies and to make our endeavours globally competitive. I thank you, and we now join the panel for further discussion.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Minister. Let me just tell you a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, about Minister King. Of course, I'll give you a little bit of those of you who may not be aware of some of these pertinent facts. Minister King is a member of the Congress of the People, and that's one of the constituent elements in the People's Partnership that is now the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, she's the Minister of Planning and Economic and Social Restructuring and Gender Affairs. She was appointed a senator and a member of the government, well, on May 28th, when the government was being constituted after the May 24th general election. She served as an independent senator during the 6th, 7th, and 8th Republican parliaments in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's the period between 2001 and 2007. She also served on a number of committees, including among them the Public Accounts and Enterprises Committee, and she chaired one of the oversight committees, the Joint Select Committee, had to do with government ministries, statutory authorities, and state enterprises. Well, our next speaker is Mr. Philip Cross, and he is the International Telecommunications Representative for the Caribbean, based in Barbados for the ITU. And he speaks on ICT regulation, licensing requirements in a converged environment, and he has been involved in efforts to reconstruct Haiti's telecommunications and infrastructure sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Philip Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator the Honorable Rudrawati Nangosan Ramgulan, Minister of Public Administration, Trinidad and Tobago, other ministers of government present here, Dr. Hamadoun Toure, ITU Secretary General, other government representatives here, members of the private sector, ICT stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First, I want to thank the organizers for inviting the ITU to be here to participate in this very important meeting. I'm really pleased with the turnout here and that we were able to participate and hopefully make some contribution. Some time ago, I was at a meeting in Barbados, and someone that many of you might know, a permanent secretary called Mr. Lionel Weeks, he was trying to urge the participants to work hard during the meeting. And what he told them was they should let creative thoughts flow into the crest of their imagination. And I think for our panel and the innovation, we should try to do such thing, to let these creative thoughts flow. But then in thinking a little further, if we allow these thoughts to flow, especially among our younger people, and they bring us the results, are we prepared to accept them? Can we deal with them? And also, do we, in the government as well as in the private sector, do we make allowances? Do we allow our especially younger people to develop ideas, to bring forward new things, to change the way we're doing business? Last night, Dr. Toure mentioned the Broadband Commission and the report of the Broadband Commission, and I just want to spend a few minutes on it because I think we do have limited time here. Now, the Broadband Commission report, this was launched by the ITU and UNESCO, and it was handed over to the UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, in September. And it says a lot of very important things, and for those who may not yet have seen it, it's at the ITU website, and I would urge you to have a look, www.itu.int, and you will see it. And one of the things it said was broadband networks are necessary for the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. And as many of you would understand, the Millennium Development Goals are really intended to get many of the developing countries out of the status that they're in right now to help them to become more developed. It talks about dealing with poverty. And in all these matters, ICTs are very important. We're talking about poverty, education, gender, health education, child maternity, global partnerships, small island developing states, which we heard about last night. All of these things are very important. And there it is now, we are looking at a broadband commission because we are saying ICTs are very important. And at this point in time, the internet, and especially going towards broadband, is important. We all need to go along that route. And we heard from the minister just now some of these developments here. There are lots of things that we need to do, both in the government side and the private sector side. And again, the minister last night referred to the public-private partnerships. We really need to continue along those lines. So many things to be done. If we do not do it, I believe we will be judged rather harshly, and there will be a price to pay. Now, recently, the United States came out with a publication on their national broadband plan. And they start by saying, broadband is the great infrastructure challenge for the early 21st century. And we are seeing that here in the Caribbean. They also say that the plan is in the beta mode, and it always will be, like the internet, because it is always changing. So they have developed their plans, and many others, as you heard what Trinidad and Tobago is doing, are developing their plans in terms of moving forward with broadband. We also heard that the penetration is not so good, so we need to do whatever is required to move forward. Last night, the minister referred to an OECD definition of broadband. This report does not give a definition, because to be honest, I'd rather see somebody with 256K than no K at all. No, that is not exactly what you want, but it can be a starting point. Let us have something, let us move. So 256K is better than no K, but it is not what we really would like to have. In terms of the report, it talks about dealing with the right policy and investment mix and how government can assist in that. They ask national governments not to limit market entry nor tax broadband unnecessarily, and to enable the market to achieve its full potential. There should be awareness of what is happening, how this can be achieved, so everyone would be aware of what is really happening. It also mentions government's everyday reality of policy making, which takes the form of regulation, taxation, customs, and import duties. And it asks governments to re-examine the way they deal with this aspect with a view to promoting faster growth. So it means that there's a need for greater dialogue and to work out the best ways of moving forward. In terms of the Caribbean, we really also need to do things regionally. Yes, we are small countries in the Caribbean, but many of these small countries see themselves as big countries too. But we need to move forward as a Caribbean region. So each country is doing what it can, but there are ways in which we need to cooperate. We have seen efforts of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, of CANTO, of the Organization of Caribbean Utility Regulators, of CARICOM, of various groups. And I think these efforts really need to continue because we're at different levels of development, and those who are further along can help the others to move along. So there are many national issues, yes, but let us also look at the regional issues. We, from the ITU side, we've dealt with a lot of these issues, and we've tried to work with all the governments and all the governments, all the different organizations. One of the activities that we've been engaged with is what is called the HIPCAR project, and it's a project aimed at harmonizing policies, procedures, regulation in the Caribbean. And we are trying to get Caribbean countries to go along the same path, to harmonize. We're not going to get everybody going exactly the same way, but we can get a fair amount of agreement. So we need to continue to move along that way. So especially for investors, and we're talking about investors here as well, when they come and they look at the Caribbean, they will not see 10 or 15 different sets of rules and regulations, but something that's fairly close with a few differences here and there. And this takes me to one of the last points I will deal with today, and that is connect the Caribbean. Now, in the ITU, we mentioned how the broadband is helping out with the Millennium Development Goals, and there was also the Connect the World project, which was divided into many stages: Connect the Americas, Connect the Arab States, Connect Africa. Now, so far, we've had 2 of these Connect summits, and we were hoping to have the Connect the Americas summit, but there has been some delay. But the people in the Caribbean did not wait on the ITU. They said, let us start our own Connect. And led by Canto and the CTU, we're seeing now a Connect the Caribbean, which is something that we'll be discussing here and in private before we leave here. To connect the Caribbean, what is it that we need? What are our goals? What are our objectives? And here, it means that all stakeholders must be on board. Because if we're really going to connect, then everybody must be on board. And this will deal with the infrastructure, the security, the content development, the application development, all these aspects. So this is something that's very important for the Caribbean, and hopefully we can make some progress during the 2 days that we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not have a lot of time to speak, but I am prepared to answer some more questions or speak to you outside of the meeting, but I will end here, and I thank you very much.